Hello everyone, my name is Piyush and welcome to the 30th video of CKA 2024 series. In this particular video, we are going to be deep diving into the world of DNS and we are going to understand how DNS works.
Oh, wait. Who are you? I am Piyush. Who are you and what are you doing in my channel?
I'm also Piyush and we are going to do the DNS today. Who are you?
Okay. If you are Piyush, then okay, let's start the video and let's see what we have to learn today.
Oh yeah, that's cool, Piyush.
Over to you.
So it's very weird to call Piyush and Piyush. Yeah. So today we are going to see the DNS. So we'll be understanding like what is DNS, why on this earth we need this DNS, and why how exactly this DNS works. Because as a developer, as a programmer, or maybe as a cloud engineer, it's very important to understand DNS. No, what do you think?
That's definitely true. You would need to understand how it works. Only then you will be able to work. Like even if you are a developer, even if you are someone who is a DevOps engineer, cloud engineer, DNS comes in every picture. Like you have to understand it, how it works externally, internally, and how to troubleshoot the issues related to DNS. And yeah, like whatever you've said, I totally agree with you.
Yeah, right. So what do you say, Piyush? Shall we start?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let's deep dive into the DNS world and let me just quickly share up my screen. Let me know if my screen sharing is working and everything is cool, everything is crisp
Yep,
and clear. Okay,
all good. All
so
good.
first things first, what is DNS? I mean, what's the full form of DNS? Let's Google it. I don't know. So DNS full form. So yeah, so as you can see that DNS stands for domain name system, domain name server, however you want to call it. But what exactly this is? Piyush, did you see that just now I just typed in like google.com and what just happened?
Yeah, I see what
What
you
do you
did
see?
there.
Yeah, what just
Yeah.
happened?
So it translated the IP address, it translated the domain name which we you have entered google.com into an IP address and rendered the result for you on the web browser.
But why do we need this translation? Like you just said in a very technical form, okay? But
Okay.
the thing is that why do we need this so complex structure? Like just by writing in google.com, why can't
Mhm.
I just directly reach to the google.com? Why do we need this DNS stuff, this IP translation and what that nerdy word that you used? I mean, why a lot of things? Why can't I just
I
type
don't know, maybe. Yeah,
uh
maybe it is easier to remember a name like google.com instead of an IP address.
why do we need an IP address? Why just not google.com? Why not to name the server as google.com and just directly
I
reach to
don't
the
know. You
Google?
tell me. You are Piyush. You tell me.
You are also Piyush. Okay. So let's say that you want to visit my house, right? You want to come and you are most welcome. So the name of my house is actually Garg Villa. So if I tell you that, hey, the name of my house is Garg Villa, will you be ever on this earth reach to my house? Can you?
No, no,
No,
no,
no, no
no,
chance. I mean, there will
no.
be like, there is no chance, right? So, if you want to reach to my house, you need some particular address. You need the street name, street address. You need my pin code. You need my city name, state name. So basically, you need my fully qualified name in order to reach to this location, right? Similar to
Correct.
that, if on the internet you have a lot of servers, you have a lot of clients, every client has their own IP address, which is always unique. So, in order to reach to any kind of machine on this particular internet, you need their IP address. But Piyush, I'm not sure how much almonds you eat in a day, but how is your memory? Like, can you how many IP addresses can you remember?
I don't know. Maybe just a few local IP addresses that I work on daily basis. Like I have a few machines on which I log in on a regular basis, and
Hmm.
and that's all about it. Yeah, not more than that.
Okay, that's actually huge because even if I work on my local machine, I have to write it down for the IP addresses. But netmed the thing is that we actually browse a lot of websites day to day, and it's very hard to remember these IP addresses. And there might be a chance that these IP addresses are changing. Maybe the Google server is down and Google is temporarily migrating some of its service to some other server where the IP address is changing. So it is actually very hard for a company like Google to convey, yeah, to convey to its users that we have changed our IP address and all that stuff. So for that, basically these google.com, these domain names are just a friendly name on top of the IP address. For example, you have my phone number, you have saved it as the name Piyush, and whenever you dial in Piyush, you basically go to my contact because it's easier to remember the domain names. That's why we have this domain name system, right? So the if we roll back to the problem, okay, so if we roll back the problem, so let's say that you have a browser, and on this browser you said google.com. So what your browser needs to do is, as an end user, what do you want? That just by typing in google.com, you should be reached to the Google's webpage, correct? And
Yep.
the problem is that just by typing in google.com, there is no way that you can reach to the Google's server. That is where this DNS thing comes into the play. So you know what happens is, when you actually type in google.com, your browser who has no idea about google.com goes to the DNS server. Okay, so you can just assume that there is some kind of DNS server which is like running. Okay, goes to the DNS server. This DNS server is nothing, just it's just like a public book. Okay, and asks that, hey bro, can you please tell me the IP for google.com? IP for google.com. So this is what your browser first makes a request to the DNS. So what DNS will do is, this DNS server will actually search among all the records that what is the IP address of google.com, and whatsoever is the IP address will be returned from the DNS server to this particular browser. So let's say hypothetically it returned 1.2.3.4, something like this. And now your browser knows that whenever the user is saying google.com, this is the IP address where the request should be forwarded. If this DNS server was not here, there is no way to reach to Google server just by typing in google.com. In that case, you have to remember the IP address of the google.com, which is not that easy. Okay. So this is
Yep.
like a very high level design and a very high level thing of why do we need a DNS server, right? Piyush,
Correct. Yep. Yep.
correct?
All good. Yep. Yep.
All good. But
Mhm.
here is a big problem. You here, like, things are looking very easy, that okay, it's a DNS server, takes an IP and resolves this to an IP address. This is known as like the DNS resolution. And after this is like resolved to an IP address, we are just forwarding it.
Mhm.
Just imagine, in today's world, how many internet users are there? Any number?
Yeah. Countless, like in billions. I don't
Billions,
know.
maybe more than billions, right? And they are
Yeah. Yeah.
increasing day by day. Is it
Yeah.
possible for this particular one server to handle
Mhm.
all the
Mhm.
internet load?
No. No.
Just imagine the amount of
Plus
load
the
this has to do.
countless number of websites, countless number of DNS that it has to manage. Plus, when you type in, it has to search to the entire database and return you result. And when you get the result in your browser, it is just in few microseconds.
Yes.
So yeah, so I see the problems over there. Yes.
So how do you think that we can resolve this problem? Do you have any idea? Like, because
Maybe something called
hmm,
local cache, or like
okay.
DNS within browser locally, and nearby location, edge locations.
Okay, so that's a very great thing, that what you can do is we can maybe cache. So let's
Yep.
discuss like two problems here which I can see
Mm.
very clearly. Number one, the
Yep.
problem is that let's say that this server is very powerful and it is able to
Mm.
it is capable of handling billions of requests. Let's say this is not a problem. The
Mhm.
problem still will be that every time I have to visit google.com, I have to make an extra hop to the DNS server, correct? And
Correct.
if I have to make an extra hop on every website visit, just think about the latency that I have. So what users will think is that their internet is slow, because a
Mhm.
non-technical user doesn't know about DNS. So he will think every time I like visit google.com, it actually takes
Yeah.
some seconds. And the bottleneck here is DNS server,
Mm.
right?
Mhm.
So to solve this problem, it's very simple. That is the caching. So whenever there's a slowness thing, we always think about caching. So there is something known as DNS caching. So what happens is, aside from resolving the DNS also caches it. Okay,
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
there are multiple levels of caching. It's not like that the caching is only done on the DNS level. Your browser caches the IP addresses. So if you're visiting any website for first time, that means the cache
Mhm.
is not present. In that case, yes, your browser is going to make a DNS query, but after that your browser will maintain a cache, that okay, I got the IP address, I'll remember it, so I don't have to make DNS query again and again. So your
Mhm.
browser maintains a cache, your operating system also maintains a cache, your router
Mhm.
also maintains a DNS cache, your ISP
Yep.
also maintains a cache. So there are
Mhm.
actually multiple levels of caching, so that you can minimize the DNS query and make the web more fast.
Yep.
So this is one thing, that if
Mhm.
you don't have to make DNS query on every visit.
Mm.
So for example, I
Mhm.
can even give you an example. Piyush, can you tell me any website which you think I have never opened? Like maybe some your college website or something which which you can make sure I have never opened.
Yeah. Try this one. This is our community website, the
Okay.
cloudopscommunity.org.
Uh, can you spell it again?
The yeah, the cloudops
Okay, the Cloud Ops.
uh,
Hmm.
cloudopscommunity.org.
Okay. So
Yep.
this is the link. Okay. So now, guys,
Hmm.
whoever is watching this video, can you think that I have never opened this website before, right? So first
Hmm.
time, this will be my first time making this request. Do you think that there should be a DNS resolution? What do you think?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
There should be. Okay, let's see. So if I have never opened this website, so there should be a DNS query. So here is the
Hmm.
call that was made, and if I open the timings, oh, can you see this DNS lookup? Can you see that actually,
Hmm.
yes, there was a DNS lookup when I was trying to get this particular URL. There was a DNS
Hmm.
lookup because I don't have the DNS thing, right? Because I didn't have the IP address. But if I do
Yep.
a small refresh, because now I have the cache, now you can
Hmm.
see that. Do you see the DNS thing now?
No. No.
No, the DNS thing is gone. You can see same URL, but there is no
Yep.
DNS. Now,
Yep.
because the browser had the cache, browser knows the IP address. What is the IP address, by the way? Here is the IP address. So this is an IPv6 address because I'm on IPv6. So you can see that this is
Hmm.
the IP address where it made a call on port number 443 because this is HTTPS. So from
Hmm.
where on this earth this IP address was came? From where did I got this IP address? Piyush?
From the DNS. Yeah. From the
From the
DNS.
DNS. So if
Yep.
I copy this particular link and I open up
Hmm.
my terminal, you can actually do something like ns lookup and this .org and enter. So you can see that this is exactly the IP address. This
Hmm.
is the IPv4 IP address for this
Yep.
particular uh, domain. By the way, where
Yep.
it is hosted?
It is hosted on Lightsail. I no no. It's hosted on, I guess, Cloudflare.
Hmm. It's on
Yep.
Cloudflare. So basically,
Yep.
this is some IP address which is returned by the Cloudflare. Okay, because this is what you
Mhm.
have added. So
Yep.
this part is done by the DNS. Now
Okay.
coming
Awesome.
on to the second problem of DNS, that can it handle billions of load? Now, of course, the answer is no. But even if the answer can be yes, maybe you are adding a lot of GPU, CPU, a lot of memory to handle billions of people. There is
Mhm.
still one problem, that is the single point failure. What
Yep.
if this single server goes down due to any natural calamity? Let's say, right? There
Mhm.
can be several
Mhm.
reasons. So, what will
Yep.
happen? The whole internet will break. And
Yep.
imagine if whole internet breaks. I'm not sure about you, but I'll go crazy. I'll go mad. So, what to do now? How can you solve this problem?
Maybe some offline server, something,
Offline. Okay.
or like the way you do, build your own DNS server. That
That even that can go down, even that can go down. But
yeah.
actually, you are somewhat right. Okay, build your own.
Mhm.
So the thing is that currently what we're looking at is kind of like a central architecture. Like there is a central DNS server which is resolving
Mhm.
and all. So central is not a solution for this because it can go down.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
let's do one thing, let's make it decentralized. Let's have multiple copies of DNS server,
Mhm.
and every
Mhm.
DNS server maintains its own records. Kind
Yep.
of like, I'm trying to have more servers so that we can balance the
Yep.
load. So
For the high
what happens
availability.
is,
Yeah.
yeah, high availability, low latency, and uh, high availability, of course, so that if anyone goes down, we still have a backup, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how it is done is basically there is something known as root name servers. Have you heard about this?
Mm-hmm.
Root name servers, and there are 13 root name servers, right? There are exactly 13 root name servers. So if you search for root name servers and you visit, let's say, this particular link, these are the 13 root name servers, and you can just see the name, that is ABC. So these are
Mm-hmm.
literally hard coded 13 root name servers. So these 13 root name servers are actually responsible for doing something known as DNS query. Okay.
Yep.
Now, this process is not like that. First of all, here is one thing, because there are literally hard coded 13 IP addresses, do you think that only 13 servers can handle the billions of people?
No. No.
No. So actually, though there are 13 root name servers, but internally they have a lot more servers. So, for
Correct.
example, this root server.net can internally have more 10 servers, but they
Mm-hmm.
all 10 basically advertise to the same IP address, which is this one.
Yeah.
So, this is done
Yeah.
using
Correct.
the Anycast thing. So, what
Mm-hmm.
happens is there can be like there are more than 13, but on the upper level, there are 13 IP
Yeah.
addresses which are available where you can resolve. Okay.
So for us, it will be like 13 servers, 13 separate servers. But internally, these 13 could be the load balancers that internally redirect the traffic to their backends. And there could be multiple backends on each server, on each of these.
Exactly, exactly. So load balancer is the right word. So there can be multiple servers. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
these 13 root name servers, you can see that who owns them. For example, this is owned by Version, this is owned by University of Southern California, this one is by NASA. So like there are different organizations who are owning and maintaining them. Okay. Now
Okay.
what
Yep.
happens is, let's say that you you make a request to, let's say, piyush.dev. Sorry Piyush for advertising myself.
No, no, no. Yes, yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. So let's say you make a request on this. So what happens is, first your request goes to one of these root name servers, whichever is closest
Mhm.
to you.
Yep.
Now there is something known as TLD, top
Mhm.
level domain. Can you guess what is my
Mhm.
top level domain in this case?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Dot dev.
if
Yeah.
for example, if you say www dot, the
Mhm.
www thing is a subdomain. Okay. This is
Mhm.
my apex
Mhm.
domain and this is the top level domain. So top level
Yep.
domain can be like .dev, .com, .org in your case, right? So there can be
Mhm.
multiple top level domain.
Mhm.
So for this top level domain, it is basically now further routed to a server whosoever handles this top level domain. So there can be a
Okay.
separate server for .com, there can be a
Mhm.
separate server for .dev, there can be a separate server for every TLD. So this particular request will go to which server for .dev, because
Mhm.
the .dev is actually the one that is handling it. So once this
Correct.
request, like first of all to the 13 root name servers, which internally has a lot of servers, then goes to the
Mhm.
.dev server, and that is where it goes to your authoritative name server, like whosoever is your registrar. For example, in my case, it's Google.
Yep.
It can be Cloudflare, it can be GoDaddy. Whosoever is the
Mhm.
registrar, it goes there, and then from there it searches like whatsoever that DNS server which is running, whatsoever that returns is basically resolved. So an IP
Mhm.
address is returned, IP address gets returned. On every level, they are caching it, and that is how
Yep.
finally you get to the IP address of piyushkar.dev.
Correct.
So this was again a very high level things, because internally a lot of more things goes on, but this is the
Mhm.
ideally how a DNS works, right?
Okay. Yep.
Now, have you ever added a DNS record to your registrar or something?
Yep. Yep. Did.
Okay, so you might have seen, let me just show you. If I open up my
Mhm.
Cloudflare account and I log into my Cloudflare account, let me just show you that how a typical registration looks like. Okay.
Yep.
So I forgot to verify me as a human. Hey, I'm a human for sure.
So bot is asking us to verify us as a human.
Yeah, a bot is
This is the
asking
world we
me.
are living in.
Yeah, bro, I am human. You are not human. Okay. So let's say I open up this particular thing that is like piyushkar.xyz, where top level domain is
Mhm.
XYZ, and I go to into this DNS tab. Now you
Mhm.
might be able to see some DNS records here. So these are some DNS records. Like for example, if any request goes to piyushkar.xyz, this must be opened.
Mhm.
If some request
Mhm.
goes to like search.piyushkar.xyz, this
Mhm.
should be returned. So just for a
Yep.
demonstration purpose, if I try to say like search dot Piyush Garg dot xyz, so you can see that when it does a lookup, this IP address is returned, which is I have
Mhm.
added here. So
Yep.
what you can do is, as a owner of that particular domain, you can actually add a record. You can select a type of domain record, a record, 4 times a record. There is a CNAME record, there is a DS record, HTTPS record, and if you see there is a TXT record, SRV and TXT and all MX record, and then you can have like what is the subdomain. So if you use
Mhm.
at the rate, it basically means future.xyz. If let's say I want to add www, this is basically for this thing. So I can add anything, like anything. So subdomain,
Yep.
this thing, and where do I want to point it? Do
Yep.
you know that how these records work actually? What is the meaning of these
Yeah.
records?
Yeah, maybe we can discuss that. It will be a good idea for everyone to understand because understanding DNS is one thing and setting up DNS is another thing. Setting up all, like, whoever is working on this, whether for learning purpose or whether for a project, they must be interacting with DNS in one way or another. and understanding DNS is of utmost importance. So I guess it will be a good time if we can put some pointers on that.
Okay, let's go ahead. Let's do one thing. Let's pick
Yeah.
up the most important and commonly used ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's do
So
that.
whenever you register a domain and you set up DNS records, okay. So how do you set up a record? So first thing is that you have to choose a type. So the
Mhm,
most common type that you're going to use is the A record. So you can say like I want to
mhm.
set up a record for, let's say, at the rate. At the rate usually means who whatsoever is your apex domain. For
Yep, yep.
example, right now I'm setting up it for piyush.xyz. So at the rate will basically means that I want to set it for directly for the root domain. Okay. But if I add
Yep,
some value here, which means it's a subdomain. So
yep.
I can say at the rate.
So at the
And
rate is also called naked domain.
not
Oh,
sure about the naked, but I have like used the
okay.
term like apex domain. So this is my
Okay.
apex domain.
Okay.
So the root domain, I can say like use at the rate for root. So let's call it as
Okay.
like this is my root domain. Okay.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I can actually add an IPv4 address. So what I can
Okay.
do, I can actually add an address like 2.3.4.5. This
Mhm,
basically means that on this internet, which is right now on the earth, I don't know future if we have some internet on Mars or something, but
mhm,
right now
mhm,
on the earth, if you try to visit piyushgarg.xyz, what
mhm,
this DNS server has to do, it is going to query, it is going to search for an A record.
mhm,
And when you search for an A record, it finds an IP associated to it. And when this IP address is found, it basically forwards your request to that server. So this IP address can be of your server. So let's say you
mhm.
have a server running somewhere, and the physical IP address of that machine, you can just put it here. Let me know if
Yep.
you want to see that how setting up a server and you can see the IPv4 address. So I'm also okay with that to show that. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
So this is the A record. Very simple,
Mhm,
no thing. Okay. So a
mhm,
query A record and forward it to the IP. Similar to
mhm.
this, there was one more record if you have seen that was 4 times A. This is
Yep.
similar to A record only. The only difference is instead of having an IPv4 address, you can actually add an IPv6
IPv.
address.
Mhm,
So A is for IPv4, and if I change it to
mhm.
this is for IPv6 address. So now I can
Yep.
also add IPv6 address. Now, the next record that is most commonly used is CNAME, which is my personal
Mhm.
favorite as well.
Yep.
So, what is this CNAME? Okay, so have you used CNAME records?
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so CNAME basically means whenever I choose, let's say if I'm choosing a CNAME record and I'm
Mhm.
trying to make a subdomain, maybe some app.piyusha.xyz, it is asking me for a target.
Yep.
And this target can be some other domain. If you see this,
Mhm,
right? So that means for a CNAME record, let's say if for CNAME I'm adding a magic, let's say some magic thing, and as a value, I can add a domain. So let's say I added maybe google.com, maybe. Okay. If
mhm,
I'm adding this google.com, okay, and in the Google's book, in the Google's DNS, let's say google.com has a record which is pointing to maybe 5.6.7.8, right? This is like Google's
mhm.
record. So
Correct.
what this means is if DNS goes to, if someone's tried to search for magic.piyusha.xyz, it will
Mhm.
see that there is a C name record, right? This
Correct.
C name record is pointing to what? Google.com.
Google.com. Yep.
Now from here it has to make another DNS query to
Mhm,
google.com, okay, to google.com, and find the A record for it, and
mhm.
whatsoever is here to return it here.
Yep.
Got it? So that
Correct.
means magic.piyusha.xyz will also be resolved to what? The Google's A record. So it's kind
Mhm.
of like adding an alias. Correct? So
Correct.
instead of hard coding the IP address, I'm making it dynamic that whatsoever
Mhm,
google.com's A record is pointing to, you also point it to that. So if
mhm.
tomorrow google.com changes this IP address internally, it automatically changes mine as well. Okay, just for a
Correct.
demonstration purpose, for example, if I copy this link, okay, so
Mhm,
your
mhm,
the cloudops community.org is pointing to 172.67 point this thing. So now
mhm,
if I go on to my records and I add
mhm,
a magic record to your domain and I turn off the
mhm,
proxy and I do a save,
mhm,
so it will first
mhm.
of all take some time as I just
Yep.
added the domain, so it has to take some
Correct.
time for the propagation. because
Mm-hmm.
you remember 13 root names, so 13 root name
Correct.
servers, then servers. So it will take some time to reach to all the servers. But yeah, we
Mm-hmm.
can for sure make a try. So if I try to do ns lookup, and I say, magic dot Piyush Garg dot xyz. So what should
Mm-hmm.
ideally happen? This should go to this. It will find a CNAME record. CNAME record
Mm-hmm.
is for this. It should make another DNS query and should resolve to this particular thing. So let's do an
Yep.
enter. And you can see that I'm getting exactly same answer that you have set it
Yep.
up.
Correct.
So that is how the CNAME is working. Now,
Mm-hmm.
so now you know
Can we
about the,
can we
yeah.
also discuss a little on the use case of it? Like, yes, you have shown it. Like, how does it work? But when do we actually use it?
Okay. A very great question. So why is there a need for the CNAME, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say that you are actually outsourcing. Okay, let's say you have a domain. Let's say I have a domain app.piyush.xyz. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so let's say this particular application, whatever I want to host it, is basically
Mm-hmm.
managed by some external provider. Let's say, do you know about Vercel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's say that I want to point this thing that this particular application should be managed by Vercel, right? First thing is, what I can do is I can hard code it. I can hard code the IP address of Vercel, right? I can hard code the IP address of Vercel, and I can actually add a record. The
Yep.
problem is that, let's say it's 2 a.m. in the night, and I'm sleeping, and what happens is Vercel decides to change their IP address internally. So what will
Mm-hmm.
happen? I'll be sleeping and I have a habit of waking up late in the morning. So what will happen? My website will be down for the whole night because this
Yep.
IP address changed, right? And this can
Correct.
cost me like millions and billions of dollar of rupees, right? Because of course this is a very popular website. Okay. Uh, don't visit, it is actually nothing. Okay, so what happens is, because this was not dynamic, now I have to wake up with 30 missed
Mhm.
calls from the boss, and I have to see what is the new IP address of Vercel, and I have to change it here. Instead,
Mhm.
what I can do is I can actually have a CNAME, right? And I can actually point it to the Vercel, let's say wherever Vercel wants me to host. Now what
Yep.
happens is, because now this is dynamic in nature, tomorrow if
Mhm.
Vercel changes it, right, so it automatically changes mine as well, because it's just a DNS query. So just like this one, because I was pointing it to google.com, if Google changes it, mine automatically changes because now it is dynamic.
Correct.
So this is one
Yep.
advantage. So whenever
Mhm.
you are giving your domain to some external provider where you want that him to manage the IP address, you can just add a
Mhm.
CNAME to their record, so it is automatically done.
Correct. Even the Cloudflare. Are you hosting your website on Cloudflare Workers?
I know about Cloudflare Workers, but I haven't hosted it.
Okay, okay. So it also creates an internal DNS record for you when you host your website. So it's something called dev dot dash 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 cloudflare.com.
Okay.
But you don't want your users to visit that website, right? So you create an internal CNAME record
Okay.
which points to your website, and it's just like the similar thing that you have explained.
Got it. Got it. So
Yeah,
basically, it's
yeah.
like an alias. It's basically like
Correct,
giving an extra name to a IP address.
correct.
So yeah,
Yep,
that's how
yep,
it works. So yeah,
yep.
great one. And there is so the most commonly that you're going to use is like an A record. You're most commonly going to use a CNAME record for your
CNAME record.
subdomains
Yep.
and all that. And then there
Mm-hmm.
are even more records. For example, there's a MX record. This is for mail
Mm-hmm.
exchange. So you
Mm-hmm.
remember, like, you use G Suite where you have your company email, like Piyush at the rate
Mm-hmm.
somecompany.com. So there you use
Mm-hmm.
this mail exchange records. So you can actually say that
Yep.
if anyone tries to email to, let's
Mm-hmm.
say, mail dot something, like for example, Piyush at the rate mail dot Piyush.xyz. So you can
Mm-hmm.
enter a server address which is running
Mm-hmm.
SMTP server, that can
Mm-hmm.
receive the emails on your behalf, right? So you can have mail
Correct.
exchange record. And then there is a NS record. This NS record is very, very, very like advanced thing. So let's discuss that in a while. So name server record
Sure.
is there, and you have SRV for validations. You have TXT records. TXT is just like, just adding a text. Basically, if let's say
Okay.
you want to have some ownership of someone's domains on
Mhm.
or some kind of verification, so there you can
Okay.
just use a TXT record. This is basically a human readable text. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Now this NS record. Have you ever used this NS record?
NS, no, I haven't used it.
Yeah, this NS is something that is not commonly used, but it's very
Mm-hmm.
powerful. You know what
Mhm.
this means? Let's say if I just have some, some word, let's say maybe abc dot piyush dot xyz, and I say that is managed by some name server. NS stands for name server record.
Mhm. Mhm.
Let's say I pointed to ns something dot maybe something dot com. What this means, you are actually saying that all the records for abc.piyush.xyz and all the subdomains for this one, for example,
Mhm.
something.abc.piyush.xyz,
Mhm.
all the subdomains for this one should be
Mhm.
handled by this server.
Okay.
Let me tell you how it works. So currently what we are doing is we are saying, hey, I want to add an ns record. Okay, for which domain? You are saying like something, no, what was the that thing, abc. So you are just saying
Mhm.
for abc dot piyushgarg dot xyz, and the name server that you're adding is ns dot something, just a second, something.com, correct? Now what
Mhm.
happens, this basically tells that all the subdomains which are inside it, for example, it can be s dot something like this, it can be,
Mhm.
okay, it can be like something here, it can be like piyush dot abc dot. So you can see that these are all the subdomains inside the
Mhm.
abc.
Yeah.
So all these domains, who will resolve the dns for them? This guy.
Oh, okay.
So what happens if someone tries to visit, let's say, this link? This will
Mhm.
go here. Okay,
Mhm.
it will see that this is actually a part of this particular stuff, right?
Okay.
abc.fusion.xyz. When it
Mhm.
tries to go here to the ns, this is an ns record for this one.
Mhm.
The ns record is pointing to where? The ns.something.com. Now
Mhm.
what it will do is it will actually go to the domain wherever its dns is hosted and try to find an a record, okay, for like
Mhm.
1.2.3.4. So this particular
Mhm.
thing will go to this particular ip address,
Mhm.
and it will not resolve to this 1.2.3.4. No, it will say that here a server is running which should have port number 53 on udp exposed. Okay,
Okay.
so this will say that, hey, can you please tell me the ip address for, okay, can you please tell me the ip address for this piyush.abc.piyush.xyz. And
Mhm.
this server can basically do some kind of database lookup and
Mhm.
return an ip address. So let's say it returns 9.1.2.3, let's say. So this will be now treated as the forwarding address for this particular thing.
Okay.
So
So
if you
so
want
this
to
is basically hosting your own DNS server.
Exactly. If you want to create your
Yeah.
own DNS server, what you have to do,
Mm.
you have to first have a DNS server, okay, and
Mhm.
ask your users to just have a NS record on their
NS
domain,
record.
and you
Correct.
have to run a machine port number 53 open, and you have to like
Mhm.
respond back whatsoever this server is going to ask you, and that is how you can
Correct.
actually create your own DNS.
Correct.
So yeah, that is basically the like very high level to medium level thing, story of DNS, how DNS works, what is
Mhm.
DNS.
Mhm.
So yeah.
No, that was amazing, Piyush. I mean, I have watched countless videos in the past since I started working, and I have seen a lot of videos about DNS and how it works. But the level of explanation that I got from this video from you, it's exceptional. Like, this is something that I have never seen before, and the way you have explained it, I'm sure every viewer who's watching this video now have a clear understanding of how DNS works. So thank you so much for doing that.
No,
just
thank you so
just
much,
one
Piyush.
request
Yeah,
though, like, can we also touch base on a few important files that we can look into in our local system whenever there is a DNS issue, or whenever we think that there is something wrong internally with our server, the client server who's making the request.
okay, got it. So let's say
Yeah,
maybe
you
you
don't
are
have to log into the server, it just maybe just mention it over here, and yeah, that should be it most of the
got
time.
it. Okay, so let's see the important files that might you might be interested in. Number one file is that like I'm currently talking about the Linux system or the macOS system. I'm not really sure about
Mm,
how the Windows, where the Windows store it. So first
mhm.
file that you might be interested in, that if you do a cat, I hope you can see my terminal clearly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So if you do a cat on slash etc slash host file, this is basically where you can actually add some local DNS records. Let's say, for example, you can already see this one. So what this means is that if the browser tries to go onto this particular port, which is for localhost, so if
Mm-hmm.
browser tries to enter this particular thing, redirect him to, like, this is the what you have to resolve. So I was
Mm-hmm.
like building an application where if you go to teachers-local.site, which is not actually a real domain, okay, so my browser when internally will try to resolve the DNS, so this is the IP address will be returned, so I don't have to
Okay.
really buy this domain for internal testing. So this is
So
one
this
file.
is like an internal A record.
Yes, this is kind of like an internal A record. Do you know that
Mm-hmm.
whenever you type in localhost, you actually go on to the localhost? How this localhost is also resolved, you can see this. So, when you say
Yeah.
localhost, it actually
Mm-hmm.
resolves to 127.0.0.1 or the
Mm-hmm.
IPv6 one. So it's not like
Correct.
that localhost is a reserved keyword. When you type in
Mm-hmm.
localhost or localhost, it actually uses this file to see where
Mm-hmm.
to which IP address you should
Correct.
point
So
to.
there is an A record already set for that.
Exactly. So there's an A record
Yeah.
already set for that. So this is one
Mm-hmm.
file that you might be interested. You can also try to add more domains here. So just add
Mm-hmm.
127.0.1 and you can add anything here and try to visit. So you will see that you are actually redirected to the localhost. And
Mm-hmm.
second file that you might be interested in, that is resolve.config file. Okay. This is basically your DNS settings. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
this DNS settings, basically you can see that for me, if I just, scroll it up, you can see that for me, the DNS server is set up to this thing, right? Which
Yep.
means currently, whatsoever I'm doing on this web, which DNS server is getting used? Who is resolving my DNS, right? Who is resolving it? For me, it is my local router. Even my
Mm-hmm.
router has the capability to resolve it. So
Okay.
currently, who is use which DNS server I'm using? I'm using my local router. So there are
Yep.
many popular DNS servers, but there are majorly two popular ones. Number one is a DNS server from Cloudflare, which has the IP address of 8.8, sorry, 1.1.1.1. And second DNS server is Google, which is 8.8.8.8, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what I can even do is, for example, if I want to do like NS lookup and I want to do piyushkar.def, right?
Yep.
This will use which DNS resolver? My, right? That you just
Yep.
saw,
Correct.
192 that.
Yeah.
But I can
Yep.
actually say, hey, can you please use this DNS server,
Mm-hmm.
which is of Cloudflare. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
this will basically go to the Cloudflare's DNS on port 53 and ask
Mm-hmm.
for stuff. So you can see it made a
Okay.
request to port 53, and this is what
Mm-hmm.
is returned by the DNS servers of Cloudflare. Similarly, I can even
Correct.
ask the Google server, so Google server is also returning the same thing. So these
Yep.
are the two files that you might want to check. And if you
Correct.
think that your DNS is slow, maybe your router is slow, you can actually edit this DNS, this etc conf file, and you can change your DNS records to maybe 1.1.1.1, because Cloudflare's DNS is very fast. So then
Mm-hmm.
your computer will start to use 1.1.1.1 to resolving the
Yep.
DNS.
Cool. So I guess the way I understood is if we don't want our DNS resolution request to go over the public internet, we can resolve it internally using a router's IP address or a local DNS server, right?
Yep.
Yep. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I guess yeah, we have covered everything. Yeah, so thank you so much, Piyush. This was wonderful, and I'm sure everyone who's watching this video now have a clear understanding of DNS. I'm sure, like I have told you this before, like why we are doing this video is because from the next video we'll be looking into some networking stuff related to Kubernetes itself, like core DNS and so on. So I thought it would be a good idea to add a prerequisite to that, because this series again is it was created from the beginner's perspective. So to need to understand core DNS, you need to know how DNS works actually, and that is why we are doing this. And yeah, so thank you so much, Piyush, for doing this, sparing the time and sharing the valuable knowledge with everyone. And I hope we'll connect sometime soon. We'll collab more, and it'll be a good learning experience for every one of us. So yeah, thank you so much once again, and I
No,
wish
no.
you have a good day.
Also, one thing, like I am also watching your CKA series, and honestly, I would recommend each one of you watching this video to view all the videos. They are super high quality, and I have seen the internal thing. Okay, I have seen like how you have planned your curriculum. So like hats off to your dedication, and thank you so much for providing the Kubernetes high quality videos for free of course. So yeah, I would highly recommend to every viewer to see this series. I like personally really like the series, and it's an absolute honor to be a part of it now.
Thank you so much. And yeah, and I never imagined like we'll be doing collab together, because I have always watched your videos. I have always seen people posting about your about your videos on Twitter. So I still remember there are few guys who say, "Wake up, babe! Piyush has uploaded a new video," and the video is how to build your own DNS server, how to build your own Docker hub, how to build your own whatever it is. So you are famous for that everywhere, and it's fun watching those tweets. It's fun watching your videos, and it's finally a great experience doing the collab with you. So yeah,
No,
thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much
much.
once again.
Same here. So yeah, okay, bye bye
Okay,
everyone, and take
okay,
care.
thanks. Yeah,
Okay.
thanks. Bye bye.